Report 2018. I'm Sarah and I will be reporting on the Holocaust and 200 Words Challenge.
I'm Holly and I'll be reporting on the women's rights to vote and the book club.
I'm David and I'll be reporting on social media.
I'm Toby and I'll be reporting on Stephen Hawking's death.
I'm Ethan and I'll be reporting on the 200 Word Challenge and the book club.
I'm Ellie May and I'll be reporting on the women's right to vote and book club.
I'm Ebony and I'll be reporting on plastics.
I'm Matilda and I'll be reporting on plastic and the Holocaust. Over to our first report.
We are here with Miss Licorice, a history teacher here at Brockington College. We'll be asking her a few questions about the Holocaust.
Why do you think it is important to have a Remembrance Day for the Holocaust each year?
It's an excellent question. I think it's really important that we commemorate the Holocaust. It was something that was hugely significant and impacted and affected so many people's lives, not just in Germany, not just in Western Europe, but in Britain, in America, families all over. 6 million Jewish people died in the Holocaust, and that's a really difficult number to actually understand. So as teachers, it's really important that we can help you commemorate it, to just understand the people, the personal stories behind those lives, and actually how it still impacts us today, and hopefully to stop future genocides happening.
And how many concentration camps were there, and what were the main ones?
Very good question. There are over 30 concentration camps created during World War II. The first one was made in 1933, so actually 6 years before the war started, in a place called Dachau. There are two types of camps. There's concentration camps and there are extermination camps. And the ones that are most famous, so for example, Auschwitz-Birkenau, that's a mixture of a concentration camp and a death camp. A concentration camp is where political prisoners were sent, political opponents to the Nazis, and extermination camps, death camps that we know at Auschwitz, for example, they were camps that were used specifically to murder people. Not just Jewish people, other minorities as well, so the Gypsies, if you were disabled, if you were black, if you were anyone that spoke out against the Nazis, if you were Catholic, there's a whole range of people that the Nazis persecuted.
Do you think enough young people have an understanding of the Holocaust and its effects?
It's a really good question. I think a lot of young people are really interested and want to engage with the Holocaust, but don't necessarily have the resources to do that. And that's why I think it's really important, like, as a school every year, that we commemorate Holocaust Memorial Day, so you get an opportunity to either meet with survivors, hear from survivors, have people come in from the Holocaust Education Trust, actually have a chance and an opportunity to talk with your teachers who have studied it, so you can ask questions yourself and explore yourself about the Holocaust and how it may be impacted and affected people in your family, or people you know, or actually, you might actually have connections to the Holocaust that you didn't realise. It affected so many people, so it's really important.
What were the conditions like for the people sent to the concentration camp?
That's a really excellent question. We have so many different personal stories from survivors of actually what the conditions were. Absolutely awful, horrendous conditions these people were faced with. It often depended on which camp you were in, and certainly the most significant stories we have are from Jewish survivors, and they were treated very badly. We don't have a lot of accounts from people that survived death camps, because the majority of people that went to death camps often perished there before that they were liberated near the end of the war in 1945. We often hear about lice, people waking up and having dead bodies next to them, 10 to 20 people sleeping in a bunk, using straw as their pillows, having one washroom, having one meal a day that was often watery soup, people starving, all they were thinking about was food, having to work very, very hard if they couldn't keep up with the work, that they were killed. Awful, awful conditions, and that's why it's really important that we study it here at school.
What events take place around the school to commemorate the Holocaust?
That's a really good question. So this year here at Brockington, we did a variety of things leading up to Holocaust Memorial Day. So we commemorated the day on Friday. We had a display in the courtyard, so everybody, teachers and staff, could contribute towards the display, making little postcard tags, luggage tags. A lot of the children who managed to escape from concentration camps went on something called the kindergarten trains, and they were trains from Berlin, where we took, and America took 80,000 refugees. We took in Britain 8,000 Jewish children, and they had little luggage tags, identity cards, and they were sent to Britain for their safety. We had Mary Milhovic come from the Holocaust Education Trust, and she did workshops with our Year 9s. all about the beginnings of the Holocaust and why there was this anti-Semitism, this anti-Jewish prejudice. We also had our Year 9s have a survivor talk, a live webcast, so they could hear from somebody who had experienced the Holocaust. Janine, she was somebody that experienced it in Poland. The majority of Polish Jews actually perished in the Holocaust. They were the largest Jewish community that were affected. And it was really important that everybody managed to take part in it. So at the end of every lesson, everyone watched a 5 minute survivor story. So 5 lessons, 5 survivor stories, seeing how children experience the Holocaust from different backgrounds.
Thank you, Mr. Chris.
Over to our next report.
Hi, I'm Toby and I'm reporting on the death of Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking, who has died at the age of 76, developed motor neurone disease at the age of 21. While he was given a limited life expectancy, he lived for more than 5 decades with the disease. The renowned scientist was an inspiration both scientifically and proving that a disability or illness is not a not a barrier to success and academic achievement. And here's Mr. Turner to ask a couple of questions about Stephen Hawking. Why do you think Stephen Hawking was such a great man?
Inspirational man. Despite the challenges that he had, he overcame them, and he was, well, as a physicist, he was someone who paved the way for lots of other people. Like I say, despite his challenges, he was someone who had a lot of involvement in a lot of new theories and concepts. He went into space, for example, despite being paralysed, so I think he's someone who shows good resilience.
And what do you think about him not getting a Nobel Prize?
I think he'll get recognition for achievements in other ways in future years, so I think, although a shame, he will be recognised and remembered for years to come.
Plastic harms our environment because it doesn't rot like paper or cardboard, so it stays in our oceans, on our streets, beaches and in animal habitats.
So, what can we do about plastic? Well, we could recycle, reuse and cut down on plastic packaged products.
It was recently reported that Theresa May wants all avoidable plastic waste in the UK eliminated by 2042.
When plastic gets thrown away, it slowly releases harmful toxic chemicals into our environment. What can you do to reduce your use of plastic?
Over to our next report.
This year, on the 6th of February 2018, is exactly 100 years since women were allowed to vote. A lot has changed since women got the right to vote in 1918, where there were 2 parties who changed women's lives forever. The suffragists believed in calm and peaceful protest, whereas the suffragettes thought violence was the way to do it.
The leader of the suffragists was Millicent Fawcett, and the leader of the suffragettes was Emmeline Pankhurst. The suffragettes' motto was deeds, not words, quite the opposite from the suffragists who believed in words, such as meetings, letters and posters. The WSPU, Women's Social and Political Union campaign, were willing to use violence. They changed themselves to railings, smashed windows and blew up buildings.
One of the most famous suffragettes was Emily Davidson, who, at the 1913 Derby horse race, walked in front of the horses and was trampled by the King's horse. She died 4 days later in hospital. No one is sure she intended to kill herself, but to the suffragettes, Emily Davidson was regarded as a martyr.
In 1914, a war broke out, during which the suffragettes put their campaigning on hold and helped support the war. Whilst the men were away fighting, the women took over their jobs. Once the war was over, no one could ignore the women after all they had done. So, in 1918, married women over the age of 30 could vote.
A lot has changed since women got the right to vote, but there is still work to be done. Over to the next report.
Hello, I'm David, and this week I have conducted an online survey into teenagers' use of social media. Children spend up to 6 hours a day on social media. 35% of people surveyed spend more than 4 hours on various social media sites. 21% of people spend 2 to 4 hours a day, whilst 23% spend 1 to 2 hours a day. I believe that the overuse of social media is becoming a growing problem. Teenagers and parents should do more to limit the use of social media to improve teenagers' health and happiness. I'm with Mr. Patel, the head of IT at Brockington College, to ask him his views on this issue. What is the biggest problem with social media?
I think the biggest issue with social media is both adults and children currently aren't too familiar with how to use it responsibly. I don't think there's a problem with the technology, and I think the technology is just going to keep evolving and used more widespread. But what we need to do is kind of evolve, adapt, and learn how to use it very responsibly.
Okay. Do you think we should limit the use of social media?
I don't think you can limit the use of social media. I think parents can have some control, but are we applying the same sort of restrictions to adults? Because social media is going to become more and more part of our life. You can see it feeding through into schools, and you can see it feeding through into work. So I don't think you can limit it.
Here at Brockington College, students take part in a 200-word challenge each week. They explore fiction and non-fiction writing to improve their vocabulary and writing ability. Students are given a topic to write about and then have 25 minutes to write 200 words or more.
We are now with Mr. Neville, Head of English at Brockington College. So, Mr. Neville, why do you think it is important to do the 200-word challenges each week?
We do the 200-word challenge each week because I think we have so many fantastic writers who come up to Brockington from primary school. I think you do a lot in terms of writing at primary school. And we really want to make sure we develop that in year 7, and then year 8, year 9, and then at GCSE in year 10 and year 11. Because I think it's really important to build those skills. Obviously, at Key Stage 3, we don't want you to lose any of that great imagination and creativity that you have when you bring up from primary school, and we want to nurture that and make sure that that is developed. So we really want to give everybody a chance every week to sit down and show us what they can do with their writing. And we also know that when you get to year 10 and year 11, when you're in Key Stage 4, that writing is such a massive part of what you do, not just in English, but in geography, in history, in your science exams now. So we need to make sure that we are preparing brilliant writers to be able to do fantastically when they do their exams at the end of their 5 years here. So once a week, everybody in the school does a task. Key Stage 3 have a task, Key Stage 4 have a task. It's often centred around a theme of the week, and it uses the word of the week, so what you're looking at in assembly will be connected to what you're looking at in your 200-word challenge in your lessons. So it gets people thinking about big ideas, big themes. It gets them used to writing lots of different types of text, like letters and speeches and reports and articles and stories and descriptive writing and all that kind of stuff. And I really hope that people actually enjoy doing it as well, because it lets you be a little bit creative, it lets you express yourself. And I know sometimes people think, oh, we've got to write, and we've just got to sit and write for half an hour. But actually, over the year and a bit that we've been doing it, I'm hearing that far less, and I think people are really enjoying showing what they can do and getting that feedback from their teachers. And it's just such an important thing for us to be doing. So yeah, so do you guys like doing it? You've got to say yes, no? Yeah? Yeah? Okay.
Over to our next report.
Holly and I are part of the Brockington Book Club, and Ethan is going to interview us on it.
What books would you recommend and why? I'd recommend The Hunger Games because it's a really important series and can teach people what happens if the government is put in the wrong hands.
My favourite author is Jacqueline Wilson because she does lots of different genres of books, so they are suitable for all ages.
What impacts can reading have on children's lives?
It can have a big impact as libraries are free, and libraries are a great way to educate the community.
What are your thoughts on the closure of libraries?
I think we need to do everything we can to stop them from closing because, children from low-income families can't necessarily afford to buy books, and also it's a good place for people to meet and talk about books that they like.
Do you believe that books are better than the internet? If yes, could that be why the book club is so important?
I think that books are better than the internet because books, you get the real story, whereas on the internet, although it is the same, it doesn't feel the same because you don't get to turn the pages.
Also, you can read a book at night without it affecting sleep.
Thank you for watching our BBC News Report.